Hello folks, Emily here, your Harvest Market dietitian. I'm back with another kit. We've got flatbreads. I know this is a fan favorite. I love a good flatbread. I am doing one of my past meal kits that I've done, but it's one of my favorites. It's so good. So this is gonna be a Greek style flatbread. So kind of like a gyro, sort of, on a flatbread. I love this because not only are the flavors some of my absolute favorite flavors, like Cavender's Greek seasoning and dill and lemon and red onion, but it's so simple, so easy. We've got lots of good stuff. Okay, so I have my prepared flatbreads right here. I get these. These are the Stonefire brand. I love these. I do special order these for these kits. So we do have the Stonefire flatbreads in store. They're just a different shape. But these are great because they're like a perfect personal size. They're slightly seasoned. They get so crispy. They're just really good. They have a great flavor. Okay, so for this, what we're gonna do, I've got all my stuff. We have, let's see here, we've got our parm, we've got our olive oil and seasoning cup, and those are gonna happen first. So before we do anything, we are going to prepare our flatbreads to be par baked in the oven. So I'm gonna scooch this off to the side for now. So the reason why we par bake is so I like a kind of a crispy crust. And so this is going to ensure that we get a nice crispy crust without it getting soggy. It's also gonna impart some really good flavor as well. So, and really the stuff that we put on after, it's really just gonna get heated through. So we don't wanna necessarily cook anything. The meat is already gonna be cooked. The feta is not a ooey gooey melty cheese. So we're not looking to get it really melty. We're just looking to kind of heat it through. So the par baking allows us to really kind of cook the crust, and then we're just gonna heat everything through. That makes sense. Okay, so a couple things. What we're gonna do, so I am going to reserve, I'm gonna take out a little dish because I'm going to reserve about a teaspoon of my olive oil because I'm gonna be using mushrooms today. So if you have mushrooms in your kit, just take a little bit of olive oil out of the seasoning cup, along with some seasonings if you want, just a little bit, maybe in like a half teaspoon. You don't need much at all. Okay, and we're just gonna set that off to the side because we wanna saute our mushrooms in a little bit of oil. So if you don't have mushrooms in your kit, you don't need to reserve any. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a basting brush. This is not necessary, but it's really helpful. You can also just kind of take a spoon, and we're gonna make sure that we dip really good in here and get look at all that seasoning. It's beautiful. Whoop, there it goes. So we're just going to spread this on and dividing it up as evenly as we can between the two flatbreads and just giving kind of a good base layer. We want to do the whole thing. You know, the cool thing about making like your own flatbread and pizza at home, if you're not a fan of the crust, you can go all the way to the edges. All the way. So your crust is really small. So that way you get flavor in every single bite. Okay, so we're just gonna spread this on really liberally. Plenty of seasoning. Oh my gosh, so good. And again, this is gonna really flavor our flatbreads really well. Just make sure you give it a good spread all around the whole thing. And scraping out every last bit of delicious seasoning. Lovely. Okay, set that off to the side. So this is what we have. Really beautiful, nice and coated. So now what we're gonna do is take the Parmesan cheese and we're gonna sprinkle it over the top. And this is going to, oh, the flavor of this. So this is this is a really simple flatbread. There's really not many ingredients in this at all. So it's about, you know, flavoring from the base up, starting with a really yummy flatbread, giving some good seasonings. It's really about quality over quantity in this dish. Okay, ta-da! All right, so this is ready to par bake. We're gonna par bake this at 425 for between 6 and 10 minutes, just depending on your oven. Keep an eye on it. We just want to get it kind of browned, a little bit crusty. Meet you right back here. Okay, so while our flatbreads are par baking, we're gonna go ahead and get the topping ready. So there are a few different options for this kit. So there are either mushrooms for vegetarian, there's ground turkey, or there's a combination of both. I'm gonna do both because I like both. So we have 4 ounces of ground turkey, then I'm doing the 2-person kit, and then 4 ounces of mushrooms. So I'm gonna go ahead and I just like to wipe off any visible dirt off my mushrooms. And then we're gonna give them a really, really good chop. So we wanna make sure that they're nice and small. I want everything to kind of like combine together really beautifully. So I'm gonna chop this really nice and small to kind of mimic the texture of the ground meat. But if you wanna do slices, that's the beauty about making your own. You can really do it any way that you want. So we're just gonna give this a chop. Okay, looks good to me. Mushrooms also kind of shrink when they cook as well. So, okay, so we're gonna put in the reserved little bit of olive oil that I saved up for the mushrooms and add those right in. Should have gotten a bigger skillet. And then I'm just gonna put the meat in the other side. So we have kind of the mushrooms going. You can cook them all in one pan. You can separate them depending on who's eating what. If you wanna keep them separated, totally fine. Whatever you want to do. So we're just gonna go ahead and let this cook. Breaking up the meat as it cooks, giving the mushrooms a little bit of a toss, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, so this has been cooking up. I mixed everything together. Look at that. You can't even tell what's meat and what's mushroom. So beautiful. So that's why I like to chop it up really, really small. But again, do what you want. Okay, so now we're gonna turn up the heat a little bit and we're gonna add in the seasoning cup. And this is really where all the flavor comes from. So we have some red wine vinegar and some Cavender's Greek seasoning, and this is going to season our meat and or mushrooms. So I like to turn up the heat a little bit because I like this to kind of sizzle when it hits the pan. And your mushrooms will leach some liquid. They're mostly water, so they will leach some liquid. So I like to kind of let the liquid evaporate off steam a little bit because we don't really want that liquid on our flatbread, and we can leave any remaining liquid in the pan. All right, add this. Be careful of your nose. When the vinegar hits the pan, sometimes it gets a little intense. Give it a stir. And I'm just gonna let this cook down until the liquid is mostly evaporated. Okay, I've got our flatbreads. They've been cooling slightly, so I can hold on to the pan, but they are par cooked. So you see how it's just kind of browned. The cheese is kind of browned and melted a little bit. So gorgeous. Oh my gosh, when these came out of the oven, the smell, oh boy, smells so stinking good. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna grab a spoon and we're gonna go ahead and spoon our topping right on top. And I'm just gonna divide evenly between the two flatbreads. And you know what? Again, this is all about quality over quantity. There's not many ingredients in this recipe. And you might be thinking, wow, this is it? But I'm telling you, the flavor of everything is just so wonderful. And sometimes, you know, more isn't always better. It just, yeah, it just depends on what you're making. And this is one of those recipes that's so incredibly simple, but so flavorful. So I'm just going to, you know, take my time spreading this out. No need to rush. And I've only got a tiny bit of liquid left in my pan from, you know, the mushrooms and maybe a little bit of that vinegar, but most of it has cooked off or been soaked up by the mushrooms, which kind of act as little sponges when they cook. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and spread this out. I just want to take the time to do this now so that when I go to eat this, everything is, you know, I get a little bit of everything in one bite. Okay, beautiful. So we're all spread out, gorgeous. So now we're going to, I've already crumbled this. Now we're gonna put on our feta. Oh my gosh, so good. So we're just gonna, again, divide evenly. I love feta, salty, delicious. So again, this is not an ooey gooey melty schmelty cheese like mozzarella. So when we put this in the oven, we're really looking to just heat everything all together. The feta will get soft, but it's not going to be ooey and gooey. So don't wait for that to happen because then it'll just burn. So it's just gonna get soft. And delicious. Okay, so at this point in time, this is where, again, you can kind of decide what you wanna do. I like to put my flatbreads in the oven just like this. I'm gonna put on my red onion, my tomato, and my olives on after because I like them on top. I like them cold on top of my hot flatbread. If you want to put them on now, you can. I'm gonna wait because to me it tastes more like a gyro when you add this on afterwards. Okay, and then we're gonna drizzle with our lemon dill sauce. So I'm gonna stick these in the oven just for about 5 minutes and then we will finish our topping. Be right back. Okay, just pulled out my flatbreads. Oh my gosh, they're smelling so good. So they're nice and crispy and browned around the edges. My feta got kind of brown on top and soft. So good. Okay, just a couple things here. We're going to set that there. And then we are going to get our toppings ready. So I have some optional add-on of Kalamata olives. I'm gonna give these a chop. I love olives. I feel like olives are, you know, you like them or you hate them. So if you like them and you got them, you can just kind of sprinkle them right on top. Oh my gosh. So good. And the great part about this, again, is that you can really, you know, customize each flatbread. If one person wants a little bit, if, you know, one person wants meat, one person wants mushroom, if one person wants olive, or, you know, one person doesn't want onion, it's really nice. You can really customize. Okay, so then we're going to, this is my favorite. I love this sliced red onion on top. This is what really reminds me of like a gyro. So I'm just gonna do some really nice kind of thin slices here. Again, if you are not a fan of raw onion, that's totally fine. So we're just going to top this and make it look so pretty. I love doing the thin slices like this too. I love the way that it looks. Okay. But if you already added on your onion before you cooked, then you can kind of skip this part, obviously. Beautiful. Just gorgeous. Okay, a couple more here. I like to be liberal with my onions. I love onions, I love garlic. I'm just doomed for bad breath my whole life, aren't I? Oh well, it's a risk I'm willing to take. Okay, now we're gonna do some tomato. I like Romas because they're nice and firm. They cube up really nicely. So I'm just gonna do some cubed tomato. Just a little bit on top. Oh, I love the fresh. I love the freshness. I love the contrast of warm and cold things together. Does anybody else? I love like a hot, warm flatbread with like some cold things on top. It's so good. I love that. Just like textural variety is important in dishes, I think temperature variety is equally as important. Okay, I'm gonna cut this kind of like an onion, like I do onions to dice, so I get a nice dice on that tomato. I'm just gonna leave any kind of juice on my cutting board there. So pretty. Okay, I'm gonna scoot that juice to the side. I've got some fresh parsley, just a little bit. Okay, so we just drizzled some of that sauce on top. Again, feel free to serve some on the side if you want to. This is still warm, but look at that. It is so good. It is so, so good, you guys. I really, really hope you enjoy this one. It's really one of my favorites. Thanks again so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.